We are here with Yu-Gi-Oh! Streamer Hoshiroe, here to rate some Magic the Gathering cards. It's a time. I'm going to give you 5 cards, and you're going to tell me whether they are good or if they are bad. Let me start you out by asking, how much Magic the Gathering experience do you have?
I have barely any. I know basic rule sets, but I've barely dabbled in Magic. I played like Arena one time.
I must say, this is our first Patreon supporter video. You're a member of the Patreon, so you get to be on the show, and this is the first time we're doing that. So it's going to be interesting to go from watching the videos to being on the show. Are you ready for the first card?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
All right. There are 5 colors in Magic: white, blue, black, red, and green. So I'm going to give you a card from each of the colors so you can learn how kind of the colors interact with each other. Your first card is going to be a creature card.
Thalia, Guardian of Theraban. So she costs 2 lands. One is any land, and then one's a white. First strike, I don't know what that means. And then non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. She has, if I remember correctly, the number on the left is your hit points, and then the one, I'm trying to remember, is left hit points or right hit points?
The one on the left
and
is,
I know the other ones.
The 2 in here is power, and the 1 is toughness.
Okay, so she has 2 attack, 1 health.
Yes. First strike
so
means that when creatures are in combat against each other, like when you attack with Thalia and it gets blocked by a creature, or whenever someone is attacking you and then you choose to block with Thalia, first strike gets to do the damage first, and then regular damage. So if a creature attacking you has 2 toughness, and then you block with Thalia, you will do the 2 damage to them first before they can deal their damage to you, which means their creature will just die and yours will stay alive.
So my question is, how many non-creature spells do most decks play? Because I know in Yu-Gi-Oh! We're a much more monster-oriented game, with all their effects being tied to that. With spells typically supplementing stuff.
Spells in Magic are different than spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! Spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like an actual spell card, like a field spell, or a continuous spell, or a normal spell, or a quick play spell. In Magic, a spell is literally any card that you play that's not a land. Even creatures are spells. Specifically, this Thalia Guardian of Thraben says non-creature spells, so of course that means any card that's not a creature and not a land. They will cost 1 more generic mana to cast.
Gotcha. I'm thinking this card's pretty good. It's mainly in early game or later game if you can have a bigger monster with, I know, Taunts thing. So I feel because early game you have to get a creature which has at least 3 toughness in order to take her out, and then all your non-creatures cost 1 more, so she's going to be a priority target. So I'm going to say she's pretty good early game, and then starts to fall off later, unless you have specific ways to keep her protected.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The Thalia is a good card, and specifically good in the beginning of the game when your opponent wants to fire off their spells, and then gets kind of diminishing returns as the game progresses, unless you can protect her. So yeah, that's a very good analysis. Like, literally spot on. Moving on to your blue card. This card is way different than Thalia, so I'll let you read this one and ask me some questions about it, because it also introduces a card type that you don't know yet.
Gotcha. So the Magic Mirror, it costs a total of 9 mana, so 6 can be any, then it also requires 3 blue. It's an artifact. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So does this card stay on the field, and can you reuse that effect?
This is like a continuous spell.
Okay.
And then upkeep and draw step are opposites, like it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! In Yu-Gi-Oh! You get draw phase, standby phase, main phase. In Magic, you get upkeep, draw phase, main phase. So upkeep is the standby phase, but it happens before you draw a card instead of after.
Okay. This I'm thinking in my head, this has to be bait, because I know draw cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like for us, we see draw like, oh my gosh, this is so broken. But I know like Magic, Pokemon, other games, of course, there's draw 7, because you don't have the resources to actually spend those cards. It's not as good, but at the same time, just being able to see the cards you want in your deck seems just so good. And I'm gonna guess that blue is probably one that casts a lot of instant spells, a lot of sorcery cards, making it where you can use this in the early game a lot easier. This isn't just a late game offering, because just being able to draw additional card, and then you get every turn you get to draw 1+1 more card. So after you activate this, you get to draw 1 card. Next turn you get to draw 2. After that, 3. Like, this seems incredibly good, but is this just bait? Is this just bait for the Yu-Gi-Oh player? No, I have to say this is good. This just being able to draw through your deck and find the cards that you need to break a board seems so strong in any game.
This card is bad. This was the bait card. You were right.
Yeah. Well, my question would be, does the blue cards just not really play a lot of instants and sorceries to allow them to actually play this earlier in the game?
No, they do. Blue is the color to play a lot of instants and sorceries to play this earlier in the game. And you would think this card would be broken the way it plays out, right? One of the problems with this card is you don't get to draw a card right away. You have to wait till you have to pass turn. You have to play this, and then pass turn. And then your opponent has to not remove this. And then it has to go back to your turn. And then you get 1 draw. Then you go back to your opponent's turn. They have to not remove it again for you to get the 2nd draw. And it gives you no protection or anything like that. And you have to set it up and then cast this. So like it reads like it's broken, but this card ends up being too slow and too much of a loss of tempo to be good.
It'd probably be insanely broken though if it was something like 3 or 4 mana.
Oh yeah, there's a card. There's a card that's called the One Ring, and it is a Lord of the Rings card, and it is a 4 mana card that gives you that when you play it, the turn you cast it out of your hand, you get protection from everything, which means your opponent can't damage you, they can't target you, they can't do anything to you for the whole turn until it comes back to you. And you also get to draw the card right away. And then the next turn after that, you get to draw 2, and then draw 3, and then draw 4. So it's like kind of similar to this, but it gives you protection. It's like infinitely less mana, and you get to draw the card right away.
Ah, I see. Yeah. So they just I mean, is that for the same color or for a different one?
It's for any color. It's 4 generic mana. Yeah,
of course. They just power crept the card.
Yeah, exactly. They power crept the magic mirror with the One Ring. So, anyway, this was the bait. Congratulations for falling for it. I'm happy about this. Now you get to go to the next card.
So, Thoughtseize. Sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. It costs 1 black mana for it. So, let's see. Target player reveals their hand. So I'm guessing this card targets the opponent, right?
You can.
Okay. Why would you want to target yourself?
If you want to discard a card.
Oh, yeah, because this is a non-land. Huh.
And a sorcery is a normal spell. Spell speed 1.
Okay. Spell speed 1. So, from what I've heard, Magic does have a decent amount of discard effects. Or cards that want to be in the graveyard, right?
Yes.
And I'm guessing, like, this black one wants to do that as well. Because to me, I'm looking at this, and the fact that you get hand knowledge, or yet you either A, get hand knowledge for your opponent, or B, yes, you do have to reveal your hand, but you get the ability to discard a card from your hand is good. Or if you reveal your opponent's hand, you get the hand knowledge and discard 1 their non-land cards. Yes, you lose 2 life, but to me that seems super just not needed. You're like, oh, look, I lost, what is it, 20 life you start with, right?
Yeah, so it's like losing 800 life.
Yeah, so you lose 10%. You can use this at the beginning of the game and just get a massive tempo swing, because you make it where if you decide to get your opponent's hand, you get to see their hand, remove a card, you have a massive upswing in tempo, because they're now down 1 card. This to me just seems incredibly broken. Like, the hand knowledge, hand rip, that 2 life isn't something that you really need to worry about, and it's just 1 mana.
Are you ready?
It has to be broken.
This is another
Was
bait.
that?
This
It's
card.
not bait.
I'm just kidding. No, this card's good.
Like, oh, there's no way you're telling me that I get hand knowledge and I get to rip a card from someone's hand.
If I told you this was
Like-
bad, you would have had a heart attack.
Like, hand knowledge is one of the most broken things you would ever give a person. This card does it at the beginning of the game.
Yes, this card is very good and is a staple.
Good.
All right.
Uh,
I had to throw you a bone there since I was unfair with the Magic Mirror card. All right, now we have a red card. Has a little bit of white in it too,
Okay.
but this is the red card that I'm choosing to show you today.
so Winota, Joiner of Forces, she requires any 2 mana, 1 red mana, 1 white mana. So she's a legendary creature, human warrior. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them into the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Does this card have any once per turn effect? Because I'm seeing whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. Okay. And then you get to summon one from among them, and they get to attack. It gains indestructible until end of turn.
In Magic, all of your creatures have to attack at the same time, unlike in Yu-Gi-Oh! So you have to choose your attackers all at once and attack with them. Everything that you want to attack with, you have to attack with all at once.
Okay, so it just, even if I have 5 non-human creatures attacking, I only get to activate this card once.
No, actually,
Okay.
this says whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, which means for each non-human creature you control attacking. You do have to attack all at once, but this will trigger for every non-human that attacks.
That seems broken. Just like you just swarm. It just seems like a she luckily doesn't get a non-human, so it doesn't recur. But it just seems like super broken because you just get a giant field of monsters, and it can just lead to giant game pushes, and maybe over time you just have it where you get board big enough where I don't know in Magic how easy it is for you to get like a board wipe of your opponent's creatures. Would that be something you'd be able to tell me, or?
Yeah, board wipes are fairly common.
So that changes it. I'm starting to think she's just okay then. If someone can, she gets creatures on the board and it causes you to attack. But if you can't use this to finish up, it ends up removing cards from. This is a weird one because it's a free creature. At least it's a free creature for every non-human creature you control, as long as you find a human.
But it's weird because you also have to play
like
non-humans as well to even trigger this.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't, this could easily cause. I feel like this could cause game because if I'm reading it right, those monsters do get to attack. Correct?
Yeah, they're tapped in and attacking.
Okay, so I feel like this is a good card for game pushes, but outside of that, I don't think it's that great. Because if your opponent can just wipe your board right after, it just seems like you lose resources at the end of the day. But who knows? I think this is one of those ones where I think I might be wrong and that's okay. It's probably pretty good. But what do you say?
I am kind of happy that you're on the fence with it because it is kind of a weird card, and the gameplay pattern is like, well, you have to play non-humans and humans. Like, what if you just hit a whole bunch of non-humans because you're playing a bunch of non-humans anyway? So, like, what happens when you just don't hit a human? And yeah, there are times where you don't hit a human, but this card is banned in multiple formats.
Yeah, I should say it because it's like,
this card's pretty broken.
I do immediately like, if this card isn't once per turn, it's in some way broken. But I was figuring it might just been for game pushes if they can just clear your board right after.
Yeah, this card is banned it got banned in Standard and also got banned in, I believe, Historic, which is a different format, and I believe it's also banned in Pioneer. There's 3 different formats where it's banned. People try to play it in like even older formats like Modern, but it's not as good there. But this card is ban-worthy, did get banned, and is pretty broken. Yeah. Magic viewers can correct me if I'm wrong. I think human is the most represented creature type in all of Magic. So the human category has like really powerful cards in it. Like there's a human like called Agent of Treachery, and it's like a 7 mana card that like takes control of one of your opponent's cards on their battlefield for free when it enters the battlefield, and you can just get that off the top of the deck with Winota. And even Agent of Treachery got banned after they played that with this card. So there's like, there's a lot of humans that are really strong, and that's what makes Winota really,
I
really
should have
good.
thought about the fact that it cheats him out of the deck too.
Yeah, it cheats him out for free.
Yeah, it's like, oh yes, I managed to find my most powerful monster. Usually I have to wait till like turn 10 when I have 10 lands, but no. I just can play for free.
There's also humans that say like all of your board gets double strike, so like everything gets to hit twice basically. So you just kill your opponent immediately, like when this triggers.
Yeah.
If you get multiple copies of the double strike cards, or like a card that says your creatures like get buffed power or whatever, there's a card called Angrath's Marauders that can like double the damage. So you double strike and double the damage, and like you get a whole bunch of like 6 and 7 mana humans on your board and just kill your opponent immediately. One of the reasons why this card got banned in the Historic as well. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next card. And I believe this one's for all the marbles, right? You got 2 right and 2 wrong. This one's for all of it.
Yeah.
And this will represent the green color.
Gigantosaurus. So it's just a 5 mana green vanilla monster for 10/10. How good is 10/10 for stats? Is it like insanely good? Or...
a 10/10 is like having a 4,000 in Yugioh.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, if removal is extremely easy, this has no protections, but is it easy to get this monster with some form of protection on it? Or
there are I'm going to tell you that there are cards in the game that give untargetable and like indestructible to your stuff. There are cards that can do that.
Does the green do green decks play those cards?
Green decks can play those cards, and quite often they do play those cards like in their sideboard, if not a couple in the main deck. Like decks that have powerful creatures like this that want to save them are playing cards like Royal Treatment, which gives your creature hexproof indestructible. But it's up to you to think about whether protecting this would be a good thing or not.
I'm going to say this card, though the 10/10 stats are really good, is probably because you have to put so many other resources into it to keep it protected and alive. It's probably not that great. It's probably basically a god card. You have to put so many you have to use so many resources to get it out, and then so many resources to just keep it alive. It's probably not that great, is what I'm gonna say.
This card is awful.
Okay.
So yeah, all you Gigantosaurus lovers in the chat, okay, and you just heard me say it's awful. I still think it's awful, okay? You can go comment that you love your Gigantosaurus, but it's awful. I'm gonna say it. I'm saying it right now. Really bad. The 5 mana a 5 mana 10/10 is really, really good, but it doesn't have trample, which means it doesn't do like piercing. And it also doesn't have any protection. So you were 100% right on that. Gigantosaurus, not that good.
Okay, that's good to know.
So
are vanillas outside of probably like 1 or 2 mana vanillas, are they actually any good in Magic?
No, vanillas usually aren't good at
all. Okay.
Good to know. I think Wizards of the Coast, the people who make Magic cards, were like, let me see how big we can get a vanilla and have it be playable, and it just wasn't it. It's just not there yet.
How big would they have to make this card make it playable?
I don't even know. They'd probably have to make this card like a... I don't know, because 10/10 is kind of the cutoff, right? If 2 attacks with this and they're dead, right? So would they have to make this do a 1-shot kill if it was like a 5 mana 20/20 vanilla? Like, would that be good? Yeah, but
at the same time, that seems like it'd be overpowered because you just clear their board, and then you just play Gigantosaurus. Well, guess you're dead. Yeah, but then it falls into the same problem, right? What if they just have removal? What if they just have any random like creature in the way to where you can't kill them because it's a 20/20 vanilla? It doesn't have any keywords. It can't do anything. But as long as you have a way to clear their board, it just seems like it'd just be one of those. You basically be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh look, I cleared your board. Let me just summon this one big dude.
Yep, and then you die. The thing about Magic though is there's summon sickness, so you can't attack with it right away.
True.
So your opponent will have an opportunity to remove it anyway.
Oh yeah, I didn't even remember about that.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with you. If you want to be a Patreon supporter as well and be on the show and have access to the Discord, feel free to join the Patreon. It's a great experience, and you too can be on the show as well. So thank you once again for being on the show. I will see you in the next video, and as always, peace.
Yep.